bringing the man himself, Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, on the phone with us. Mr. Speaker, thanks for being here on American Sunrise. We appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Hey, good morning, David, Terrence, Allison. Thanks so much for having me. It is an exciting time. This is a very, very important development. It's been reported accurately. It was just a few days ago. I had a very productive meeting with Secretary Bessent at the Office of the Treasury there. Leader Thune was there from the Senate, Kevin Hassett, NEC, all the top lieutenants on the economy. And we have just worked out some final details about moving the budget resolution through both chambers. There is unity between the House and the Senate Republicans on this mission. The goals of the reconciliation, the one big beautiful bill, as you said, it is going to happen. And the reason that we put it on such an aggressive timetable is because it's critically important for the American people. Why? Because in this bill, the reason the president describes it that way is because it's going to have so many features of our priorities and our campaign promises all sandwiched into this big bill. So you're going to be talking about border security, American energy dominance, restoring peace through strength on the world stage, regulatory reform, and of course, the tax cuts portion, because we got to make sure if we don't act here, we're going to have the largest tax increase in U.S. history on the backs of every American by the end of this year. It will happen by default. So we have to complete this mission. We got to keep the House and Senate Republicans and the White House all working completely united and as one force, and we're going to get it done, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, Speaker Johnson, let's go through the timetable. So it's a 1-2-step process here, budget resolution, then, of course, the big enchilada, the budget reconciliation. Are you thinking before Easter recess, you get budget resolution done? I'm talking about the compromise budget resolution, obviously, and then after that, reconciliation possibly by Memorial Day? Is that what you're thinking? And the other question here is, what was the specific thing that brought everybody together? Because what was the stumbling block before, and what's different now?
Yeah, those are great questions. I mean, yes, it's on an aggressive timetable. I think the one you laid out there is accurate. That's been my goal. I've been saying this for a long time. We had to get the resolution done before Easter, and we got to get the entire package done as soon as possible. We're saying Memorial Day for a number of important reasons. Number one, we also have the debt limit extension included in reconciliation, and there is a coming deadline on that. There's a literal fiscal cliff on it. Probably will land sometime early June, if not late May. So that is one more reason, one more urgency of getting this job done. And the other thing is, the sooner we get the bill passed, the sooner it will be like jet fuel, like a turbo boost to the economy, because all these features of things that we're going to be codifying and putting into law is going to settle the bond markets, is going to inspire investors and job creators and entrepreneurs and risk takers. They'll have certainty about what their tax rates are going to be going forward, and there'll be certainty, I think, that it'll be critical to continue and really boost this economic recovery after the last 4 years of Biden. So the sooner we do all that, the better. The American people are counting on us, and we will. The only stumbling block, to answer your question, really over the last several weeks, has been kind of a different vision. The House and Senate had slightly different visions on how to accomplish the mission. The Senate, a number of senators anyway, thought we should do it in a two-bill strategy, and we've been insisting, as the president has, on the one big beautiful bill. Now those ideas are merged. It is one bill, and everybody's working in the same direction.
Speaker Johnson, I'd love to hear your optimism, but let's just be honest. All of this is going to be dependent on votes. And right now, in your House in particular, there is a slim margin right now for Republicans. Cue Elise Stefanik. We, of course, finding out this morning, really last night, that President Trump has pulled her nomination to be head of the UN or UN ambassador because of those votes. Can you talk about that and the slim majority that you have and the challenges therein there in the House?
Yeah, it is a small majority. I mean, the smallest in history, the smallest that's possible. We've had a one-vote margin for much of the first 100 days. And it makes it a challenge, but not one that we can't meet. I mean, we're consistently underestimated by the Democrats and the mainstream media, and that's turned out to be, in a way, a strategic advantage because we keep surprising and shocking them. We got the original budget resolution done. We got the government funding deadline met last week, 2 weeks ago, to Chuck Schumer's shock and awe and all the Democrats. We'll do it again on reconciliation, and it's really important. Now, I just want to say this about my dear friend Elise Stefanik. She is a great leader, a devoted patriot. She would have done extraordinary work at the UN, but the president recognized, as we do, that her voice and her vote are really important in the House right now. And so he asked her, and she, really heroically agreed to delay that thing and to stay with us and to continue to work on this in the House. There is no doubt that she's going to be an important voice in all this and an important vote, and I'm glad she's here. The president also said, because he recognizes her great talent, that he's going to have a place for her in the administration as soon as we grow this margin. And so that's an open invitation to her, and I think it's appropriate.
She's absolutely phenomenal, so important. And along those lines, what are your thoughts on those races in Florida right now? We're talking about the power of Elise.
Yeah, well, we have a big election to fill the two open seats, the Matt Gaetz seat and the Mike Waltz seat in Florida, and that's April 1st, so just right around the corner. We feel very good about it. The Democrats have nothing. They have no leader, no vision, no platform, no party future right now, and so they are just really hell-bent on trying to stop anything they can, President Trump, Republicans in Congress, and when there's an open seat, they're going to pour money into it. So they've invested millions and millions of dollars in these seats. They should be safe Republican seats there, and I think Jimmy Petronis will be elected. I think Randy Fine will be elected. Those are two great Republicans who will join us within a week or so, and we'll be excited to get that done.
Speaker Johnson, let me move to this alleged leader of that brutal gang, of course, MS-13, arrested in Virginia. Huge news. You've got Attorney General Pam Bondi saying that Henry Joshua Villatoro Santos was taken into custody on an outstanding administrative immigration warrant and was later charged with illegal gun possession. Talk to us about that arrest and what Congress needs to do here to make sure. We just had a guest on about 15 minutes ago who said we need more Border Patrol agents there down at the border, and that goes to Congress and the fiscal issue there. But talk about that.
Yeah, look, the secure border is the number one issue in America. It was the number one issue in the election. We're so grateful that President Trump was elected, and leadership makes all the difference. You saw that we went from 189,000 illegal border encounters in February of last year to less than 8,000 this year, the smallest number. We have total control of the border now under President Trump, and he has sent a very clear message to gang members and terrorists and illegals all around the world. Your time is up. Not going to happen here in America. Think about the contrast between the Trump and Biden administrations on this issue alone. Biden's FBI and DOJ used federal resources to raid their political opponents. And President Trump is conducting pre-dawn raids on MS-13 terrorists, right? It's one of the most violent groups on earth, but he's taking decisive action to rid them from our shores. And that is long overdue, and the American people are standing up and applauding it.
Absolutely. Well, also, Mr. Speaker, the House is set to vote on the Rogue Rulings Act next week. Majority Leader Steve Scalise made the announcement on Twitter. There have been growing calls to impeach judges who have ruled against the Trump administration on several issues like freezing federal aid, deportation flights, and U.S. aid. Take us through the law. And with this slim majority, do you actually see it passing?
Well, I tell you what, y'all, in my previous life, I was a constitutional law litigator. I was one of the guys in the federal courts. For 20 years, I litigated high-profile constitutional law cases trying to defend religious freedom, the sanctity of life, gun rights, and those kinds of things. I would routinely run into activist judges, leftist judges who were appointed by Presidents Clinton or Obama, and very often they would thwart the Constitution and do the opposite of what was the just outcome. So I never walked out of those courtrooms, however, and thought to myself, I'm going to get that judge impeached. What I thought was, I'm going to appeal this as quickly as possible and get it overturned at the next court. And we did that. So, but now we have a growing number of activist judges. The problem is really gotten out of control, and they pose a significant threat to the rule of law and the separation of powers and equal justice. And so those are critical principles for us to maintain. The House is working right now overtime to limit the abuse of these activist federal judges. And we're working with the Judiciary Committee. My brother Jim Jordan is the chairman there, to expose the worst offenders. There's going to be a high-profile hearing next week, And then the House is going to vote also on legislation to stop these unfounded nationwide injunctions. We cannot allow plaintiffs to venue shop, find the most liberal judges in America, bring all the cases there, and have one judge on a bench decide to thwart the agenda of an entire administration that was elected by the people. That's not what the framers intended, and we're going to restore the original intent.
Speaker Johnson, I'd like to shift our conversation to DOGE. I've got kind of a two-part question. First, DOGE is set to end, or at least Elon Musk's part in DOGE is set to end in about 60 days or so, give or take. What do you see happening beyond that time? And more importantly, some of the work that's been done under DOGE, how do you really codify that? How do you put it in law so it continues beyond the Trump administration and even beyond this next 60 days or so?
Yeah, great question, Terrence. I mean, look, I've enjoyed working with Elon, spent a lot of time talking, meeting with him about this issue, and he and I agree that there's a three-step process. I mean, once they find all this enormous amount of fraud, waste, and abuse throughout the federal government, we have to qualify it and then quantify it and then codify it. Because to your point, if we don't put it in the written law, then it'll just be, the next time a Democrat is elected president, let's hope it never happens, but it probably will, they'll just reverse it all, right? So we're going through that methodical process. We're doing the first two steps right now. He's qualifying, and then we're quantifying it. And very soon we will be codifying it. So, Elon said in an interview yesterday that he genuinely believes, and he's been telling me this for many weeks, that they can find $1 trillion in fraud, waste, and abuse in the federal government without affecting a single benefit that any American is duly owed. That is revolutionary. And people say, how is this possible? Well, I told Elon that this is revolutionary because it's not just about saving money. We're going to restore, at the end of this process, restore the founders' original vision for how this is supposed to work. See, they wanted a lean, efficient, effective federal government. It was carefully overseen by Congress. But for decades, Congress hasn't been able to do that job because even though we've tried, the bureaucracy has hidden the data. Well, see, the beauty of what's happening right now is Elon and the DOGE team have algorithms. They've cracked the code. They are crawling through the data and finding the abuses that were always hidden from us in Congress. And that is going to be a game changer.
Speaker Johnson, we have just a minute left. I know you've got to run, but let me ask you, we have a big conservative MAGA audience. They're not MAGA-leaning. They are true-blooded MAGA, if you will. What is your message to them about the fight ahead, but specifically those 12 appropriation bills? I know that you've talked about that before, wanting to get that done. That's your goal. It hasn't happened. What about the future? Because they talk about those 12 appropriation bills a lot. They really want to see fiscal sanity returned to Washington. Can you address that to our audience?
Yeah, great. I love your audience, the MAGA base. They talk about it, and I do as well, because we all agree that we've got to get this done. This is a MAGA principle, an America First principle, to do 12 separate appropriations bills, because that's what allows the best level of stewardship, right? The reason it's supposed to work that way is because then all these members of Congress can dig into the details and do it right, efficiently and effectively. Here's the hopeful part about it. I think the reason that we'll be able to do it for FY26, fiscal year 26, that we haven't been able to do before, is in part because of this DOGE effort. See, because now when Elon produces hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of savings in fraud, waste, and abuse, and the president has new revenue sources by his policies that he's enacting, it's going to be a completely different budgeting and appropriations process going forward. So we're very hopeful that we can restore that. Congress hasn't done that in decades, but we think we can get it back and ultimately put our country on track for a balanced budget. What a concept. We've got to eliminate the debt and the deficit, and we're doing that. I'll just leave you with this metaphor because I explain this all the time. It's kind of like turning an aircraft carrier. That's what the U.S. economy is. It's a giant ship adrift, and you don't turn an aircraft carrier on a dime. It takes miles of open ocean because it's such a massive vessel. We are turning it. We just did with the government funding with the CR. That's why that was the conservative move there, and the president wholeheartedly endorsed it. And the next big step is reconciliation, and we are turning this ship of state, and it is long overdue, and it's exciting.
For sure. Well, here's another metaphor. Biden's gone, so the Titanic is gone, and the iceberg is no longer right ahead. So we appreciate you. By the way, Terrence really wants that gumbo recipe. So, whatever. At some point, get it to.
I'll have my people get it. Your people.
What's that? Yeah.
I'll have my people call your people to get your recipe. Speaker
There you
Johnson,
go. Let's work it out.
appreciate
Let's
you.
work it out. You got
Thanks
it.
again.
God bless you.
Thank you.
All right. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.